it was never something I really said yes to. I just grew up doing it.
Jeremy and Audrey Roloff just threw a birthday party for their daughter Ember, but then something really weird came out about the party, and you'll never believe what it was. So Jeremy and Audrey's daughter Ember just celebrated her 5th birthday. I mean, they threw her a really adorable outdoor birthday party with lots of balloons and pink decorations, and Audrey wrote a whole post about the day on her Instagram, and she even shared a bunch of photos from the party. But there was one thing that she said that struck me as really weird. Basically, she dropped a bunch of hints about how Ember's name was actually related to all the wildfires that have been happening in the area, and she said that the wildfire smoke has always been the most intense this time of year, which is obviously when Ember was born. And Audrey said that after one of the nurses at the hospital saw Ember's name on the board for the first time, she asked her if Audrey named her after the fires that were raging through the Columbia River Gorge in 2017. And Audrey really tried making the whole thing sound like this adorable, sweet story about Ember's name, which I thought was really weird. I mean, wildfires aren't exactly this great romantic thing that she's making them out to be. They're obviously extremely dangerous and have a lot of really serious consequences. And so for her to make a post about how Ember is such a cute name because it reminds her of wildfires, it just felt really bizarre to me and like a really insensitive thing to say. But that wasn't even the worst part about this whole thing. What I found even more concerning was that Audrey and Jeremy organized this whole kids party outside. And I mean, just looking at the photos, you can clearly see that there were some really bad air quality conditions, and I just don't understand why they would have the party outside when this was clearly bad for the kids. I mean, the smoke levels around that time were allegedly so bad that the state recommended that people reduce the time that they spend outside because it wasn't safe or healthy for anyone to be out for too long, and even adults were advised to stay inside more than they normally would. But this was a kid's birthday party, so if the smoke was bad for adults, I can't even begin to imagine how bad it must have been for kids. I mean, their lungs are obviously much smaller, and I just don't think it was a good idea to throw an entire birthday party for a 5-year-old in the indoors, not in those conditions anyway. And I get that Audrey probably had this big elaborate plan for the party, and she probably didn't want to change that. But from the photos, it's clear that she had a whole theme going and put a lot of effort into it all. But I don't think it would have made that much of a difference just to move the party inside. I mean, maybe it would be slightly less impressive, or it wouldn't be exactly what she had in mind, but honestly, at this point, it was a safety issue. I mean, I just feel like it should always come first. And the theme of the party was a unicorn tea party, which was apparently requested by Ember herself, and there were lots of pink balloons and ribbons and even a unicorn cake. But I just don't think this party needed to happen outside. I mean, I think this theme would have worked just as well inside the house, and they could have still had all the unicorn decorations and everything, and they could have still had the tea party. I don't think it would have made the party all that different at all, and so it just feels really weird that they didn't actually move it, especially since there were so many kids. And even if Audrey herself didn't realize that, maybe the smoke wasn't this cute thing related to Ember's name, but that it was actually dangerous. I mean, there were so many other adults there. Someone must have realized it, right? So why didn't anyone mention it? And I mean, we don't really know what happened. Maybe someone did mention it, but Audrey refused to move the party inside. But honestly, I mean, who knows at this point? It just all feels super reckless and irresponsible to me. And another thing that I thought was pretty interesting is that Tori and her kids weren't in any of the photos that Audrey posted, even though they were actually at the party itself. And this isn't exactly the most surprising thing ever, since we all know that Jeremy and Zach aren't exactly on good terms, and because of that, neither are Audrey and Tori. So I'm not at all shocked that Audrey didn't post a picture with them in it, but I do think it's nice that they actually were invited, even if they don't get along all that well. That doesn't mean that the kids can't get to know each other, and I think it's actually pretty mature of them to put their differences aside for Ember's birthday party. And another thing I wanted to mention that makes this whole party even weirder is what just happened at Roloff Farm, because a couple of days before the party, there was apparently a fire at the farm, which is actually pretty close to Audrey and Jeremy's house, and from what I could find online, it seems like this was actually the start of a wildfire, which makes all of Audrey's comments even more bizarre, and she's been assigning all this meaning to wildfires and her daughter's name, and even though the family just had an issue with a wildfire a couple of days ago, I just feel like that's such a weird thing to do. I mean, it already felt pretty insensitive, but this just makes it so much worse, and the family will obviously have to deal with the consequences of this, and I just don't think Audrey's post was appropriate at all, and I honestly hope that the farm is okay. I mean, the wildfires were apparently really bad in that area, and there were a bunch of, planned blackouts as well as a lot more unplanned, and the call about the fire at the farm allegedly came at about 3 p.m., and all units were recalled by 5:40 p.m. when the fire was finally out, but reportedly, no structures were immediately threatened, so it looks like nothing too serious happened, but Jacob actually tweeted about the fire once it was out, and he said that he would be staying at the farm on fire watch for 48 hours and continue to separate piles with an excavator. And the fire obviously did some damage, but it looks like it might not be anything too bad, and hopefully we'll get to find out more about it, and maybe in a future episode of the show. And it seems like right after Ember's birthday party, the Roloffs also celebrated her first day of pre-K, and Audrey shared a couple of cute photos of Ember in a white dress holding a board that said Ember's first day of pre-K age 5, and it really seems like Ember's had a pretty eventful last couple of days. In her original post about Ember's birthday, Audrey gushed about her daughter, and she said that Ember was a really creative kid, and she is apparently always full of energy and stories, and she never runs out of ideas for fun things to do. And Audrey also said that she cherished every second of Ember's sweetness and the joy she got from the simplest things. And honestly, the whole post would be pretty sweet if it wasn't for the weird stuff about the wildfires in Ember's name. I just think that Audrey didn't think that part through at all, and if she did stop to think about it, she might not have posted about that in the first place. But what do you guys think? Do you agree that having the party outside was probably not the best idea? And what do you think about the whole thing with Ember's name? Let me know in the comments, and guys, do me a huge favor. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like, follow, share, subscribe button, and y'all better stay tuned for many more videos.